I said I was taking the day off today. It's international break. I also said, unless somebody sacks their manager, and up stepped Rotherham United and they've sacked their manager. Matt Taylor out of Rotherham. I suspect it's quite close to being exactly a year, maybe a year and a little bit. He's been in charge at Rotherham, but he is out, and Rotherham are searching for a new manager. I said it half seriously, half sarcastically if someone sacks their manager, because we know what these international breaks are like, don't we? We call them managerial graveyards, and they are. I mean, if you flip it around, maybe they're just good opportunities for owners in that they have a couple of weeks, a bit of time to bring somebody in, make that change, and get going with a new manager. And that is what Tony Stewart, the Rotherham owner, has decided to do. And Rotherham, they're not a normal case when it comes to, when you think about Tony Stewart, when it comes to sacking managers, because Paul Warne was there for the longest time. Not only was he there for the longest time, but he was backed during 3 relegations. Okay, the first one was kind of already guaranteed pretty much when he showed up. But another 2 relegations in, I think they went down 3 times and up 3 times, didn't they? I think I've got my numbers right there. Well, Paul Warne was there. So what I'm saying is we're not used to Rotherham being in relegation trouble and sacking their manager. But that is what they have done. We mentioned Matt Taylor had been at Rotherham, a year or so. And this was the start of last season where Derby County had their takeover, didn't they, in League One? And Paul Warne decided, it's not actually going that well this season, to be honest. He decided that maybe a combination of him having been at Rotherham a long time and maybe wanting something new. And I think a lot of people kind of viewed it as, did he think Derby in League One was a bigger opportunity than Rotherham in the Championship? Maybe he did. Out he went. And it took a fair wee while. I remember covering this last year, Matt Taylor coming in to Rotherham. And what's the Cambridge guy? Mark Bonner. I think it was mooted that Mark Bonner had actually been offered the job. He'd done the interview and all of that good stuff. And he decided that he was going to stay with Cambridge in League One. They pulled off a great escape at the end of the season. He's still there. But Matt Taylor, who had been at Exeter for the longest time, and Exeter, well-run club, aren't they? They've been kind of on a decent upward trend, and I think new training facilities and players coming through and trading well. It's just one of those clubs where you look at and you think, oh, okay, they're doing good things there. And he stepped away to take the Rotherham job. Matt Taylor is now redundant. But look, the brief, we think, we expect, we suspect with Rotherham, keep them in the damn Championship. And Matt Taylor did manage to do that last year. Now, you can look at the binary and say, did he keep them up or did they go down? He kept them up, job done. There are, as always, nuances to this. And don't get all chippy with me, Rotherham fans. There were a couple of points deductions underneath Rotherham, although they were comfortably clear in the end. And there was a bit of a sense, I think Paul Warne had already scored 6, 7, 8 points, I think, by the time Matt Taylor got in there. So there were those 2 things. But did he keep them up or did he not? He did indeed keep them up. And I think Rotherham backed him a little bit, didn't they? Who were the 2 guys they brought in the summer? Sam Nombe was one. I forget. There's another lad who came in. I think they were both possibly club records, or am I getting confused with Plymouth breaking the record twice? I know they went in heavier than they have done before in terms of signings and backing Matt Taylor. And I guess maybe they just wanted a little bit more than that. Rotherham are 3rd bottom. We are 1/3 of just over 1/3 of the way into a 46-game season there. Rotherham are 5 points adrift. There is, looking at that and the sort of perceived wisdom, an idea that this bottom 4, Wednesday, QPR, Rotherham, Huddersfield, are possibly going to be the bottom 4 come what may. That remains to be seen. And if that is going to be the case, then perhaps Rotherham are looking at one place to aim for. You never know if someone else can get suckered down into it. But Plymouth just look solid, don't they? And I just think Coventry are going to get going sooner rather than later. And then you're looking at an 8-point gap up to the likes of Birmingham and Swansea. Then you're looking at blooming Norwich, who are a parachute team. Anyway, so that is the state of play. And maybe this does signal something new for Rotherham in terms of being a little bit more ruthless, because we've always looked at Rotherham, and I like Rotherham for this reason, that they're a bit of an outlier. Let me just bring that table back up, and you can now see the bottom 4 have all changed managers already this season. Okay, you can say with Huddersfield, that was a bit more of a mutually consenty one with Neil Warnock going out. I'm sure he'll get linked with the Rotherham job, as he gets linked with every job down towards the bottom of the Championship. And Darren Moore coming in there. But with the likes of QPR and Sheffield Wednesday, you can sort of start to use the basket case terminology. And QPR financially have struggled for a while and had 3 managers during the course of last season, and switched from Gareth Ainsworth to Marty Cifuentes already. And Sheffield Wednesday have just been, chaotic all season, pre-season really, with Mr. Chansiri, sort of the owner there, running amok. We cannot categorise Rotherham in terms of, it's a basket case, it's all chaos, it's all silly financial craziness, owner craziness, and that makes it a hard job for the manager. And so they sacked the manager and changed the manager to try and mitigate the chaos that's going elsewhere. No. That's not the case for Rotherham. They're really well run. I think famously there was one season where they went down, I think 18-19 possibly. They were literally the only club in the Championship to make a profit, I think. And down they went, refusing to spend on players, refusing to bust their wage bill. On the one hand, that is a really good thing, because we want to see clubs run sensibly. Would you rather be in the middle of the table losing tons of money that you can't afford to lose? Or would you rather be viable, solvent, and maybe, don't want to insult Rotherham, maybe where you actually are in the hierarchy, and be a sensibly run club? And that's the choice that they have always decided to make. So that is good on the one hand. On the other hand, it does make it a difficult job for whoever goes in there and manages. And we all thought that Paul Warne was doing a good job in his time there. But the reason it's a difficult job is because, go figure, if Rotherham are the one club in the league making a profit and going down, that means there are going to be other clubs, pretty much all of them, who are gambling and losing money and will outbid Rotherham on salary and will outbid Rotherham on players and transfer fees and things of that nature. So it does make it, I'm not going to say Matt Taylor or Paul Warne, especially talking about Matt Taylor. Let's talk about Matt Taylor. He's the one who's been sacked. Had his hands tied, Rotherham fans can argue that players had been brought in this summer, but don't compare it with Rotherham's history. Compare it with what Rotherham are up against in the other teams down at the bottom of the Championship, the rest of the Championship generally. And they tend to, the manager of Rotherham will tend to have less to spend in transfer fees and salaries. So it comes to the question, what do you expect from a Rotherham manager? And obviously they're not getting what they expect. It was a 5-0 defeat at the weekend. That never helps going into an international break. But I would like to think, and I would like to hope, that if Rotherham are as sensible as I believe in Tony Stewart and the hierarchy there, they wouldn't be making a decision based on the last game before the international break being 5-0 and you got to sack the manager. Maybe they're just looking at it and feeling it's not as competitive as they want it to be. It's this season, it's 2 wins in 16 games, isn't it? And I think the away record is particularly atrocious. And there's this idea with Rotherham that just away from home, they're just not going to get any points. And if they are going to stay up, it's all going to be done. At the New York Stadium, I was there very recently. They were pretty decent against Ipswich. They got a late 2-2 draw, but it wasn't like Ipswich hammered them and, they just scored at the end. It was a really evenly contested game. And look, I know people get upset when you literally describe how their team plays football. I'm not one who's bothered about different ways of playing football, but Rotherham defended, got behind the ball, played the channels, stuck some big guys on at the end. Kelly and Hugel. Morrison was on and lobbing the throw-ins. I've got no problem with that whatsoever, but it needs to be competitive, and it can't just be competitive in home games and never in away games. So I think there was that sense there. I have to say, I keep mentioning Paul Warren. With Paul Warren, you always thought that Rotherham could beat somebody at the New York, particularly, and maybe nick the odd win. I know Rotherham had a couple of wins away from home last season. I think they beat Sheffield United. Am I imagining that? I think they beat Stoke away from home. And you looked at both of them, and they were both these ones where you get the clean sheet, but you give up 25, 30. A very good goalkeeper, actually, Johansson, Rotherham. So I think what we're saying is Rotherham, I've used the word viable off the pitch in terms of not overspending and, looking at their income and their expenditure and actually being sensible about it. Go figure, like not a lot of football clubs are. They're viable on the pitch, though. Were you going to turn up, and if you played well, were you going to win games? I know they nicked a point at Southampton, didn't they? Where, again, you look at the numbers and you think, oh, if you play that game 10 times with those numbers, does it end in a draw? Probably most of the time it doesn't. And I suppose if you're a Rotherham fan, getting in your car or on the train and you're travelling off to see the team away, okay, you accept that maybe Rotherham going away to Leeds, Leicester, Southampton, etc., Norwich, Watford, parachute teams, whoever, you're not going to be favourites, but you want them to have a go, don't you? And you want to have that feeling that if you are picking up points, it's not just because you kind of smashed and grabbed and your keeper kept you in it once you conceded 30 shots and scored from your one shot or whatever. You want to think that you're going to go there and you're going to have a chance of, bloodying some noses. And maybe that's been the problem with Matt Taylor. A bit too cautious, which means white flag waved away from home, and obviously only a couple of victories at home this season. So look, on the one hand, yes, it's, I never like to see anybody get sacked. I always try and exercise empathy. It's somebody's life's work and, a fellow human losing their job. I get it. I do acknowledge it's a tricky job. It's not, and, use whatever language you're comfortable. I'm going to use the word big or biggest. It's not the biggest club or budget to work with in the Championship. So, look, if Matt Taylor was 2 places higher than he was and they were 21st and not 23rd. I've got it right. 23rd, don't they? Sorry, 1 place higher, not 22nd, and they were 21st. You would say, still, job done. Just build in the Championship and stay there. But there is this idea that they could be in this bottom 4 that's going to stay the bottom 4. And the 2 clubs below them, QPR on Wednesday, have made the move. The club above them has made the move. Huddersfield there. Maybe this is what they are going with, that the change is going to give them a better chance to get out. So I can see it from both sides. And honestly, I think he got quite a long contract. I'm just used to Rotherham sticking with the manager. So although I'm not surprised that a club who's 22nd who never wins away is getting rid of their manager and trying something different, I am surprised that this particular club, Rotherham, who have, form for sticking with a manager who's taken them down, and that's worked well because he's brought them back up every time. And again, we're talking about Paul Warren. We should be talking about Matt Taylor. Maybe that's an issue as well. Maybe if, there's a previous manager there with such a big imprint on a club, maybe Matt Taylor hadn't quite left enough of an imprint. Anyway, this is the point where I say, I've had my view on it. He is gone. Who is coming next? I must admit, I haven't looked at the betting. I'm supposed to be having the day off today. I've been in a recording studio all day and I've just kind of got in and I'm firing this out off the cuff. Again, usual apologies on these sacking videos for lack of production. Who is going to be the next Rotherham manager? I'm sure some former Rotherham managers, namely Paul Warren, Neil Warnock, Steve Evans, I think I heard named, will indeed be mentioned. I don't know what the plan is here for Rotherham. Do they feel that somebody else can get a bit more out of the squad there in terms of what I saw? Rotherham was playing the channels and being quite defensive. Good point against Milo Ipswich from doing it, but obviously that's not enough currently to have them outside the bottom 3. Is someone going to go in and all of a sudden be playing progressive football and moving Rotherham up the table with that squad? Probably not. No disrespect. So maybe it is a similar type of football with just a little tweak, maybe a bit more front-footed, maybe a bit more aggressive. Maybe the way Oh, he's available. Neil Harris, maybe the way Neil Harris used to do it at Millwall. Speaking of Millwall, Gary Rowett is available. There's how many managers? 7. Now let me just have a look at my table. So Wednesday, QPR, Rotherham, Huddersfield, Birmingham have changed. QPR have changed. I think I already said that. Bristol City have changed, haven't they? Is that 7 all counting? I think it is. Look, can they find someone who's gone out of one of those jobs? I'm sure. I've said they're a well-organised, well-run club. I'm sure there's some thought gone into this already before getting rid of Matt Taylor. Anyway, that is my take on the Rotherham job, the job done by Matt Taylor and some possible new candidates. Who do you think it should be? Let me know down there in the comments. What do you think of the job Matt Taylor did? Would you be getting rid of him now? Would you be sticking with him? Bearing in mind what I've said and what they've done before, what do you think the right call would have been? And is it the one that Rotherham have made? Sometimes inactivity is the biggest crime, and doing nothing is something you can't do. And you can't accuse Rotherham of doing nothing. They have acted on being in the bottom 3, 1/3 into the season. We will see what transpires. Again, let me know what you think in the comments. Hit the like button. And if you want to see my take live and in person on Rotherham, if I point properly, there you go. Click up there and you can see my match blog from Rotherham 2, Ipswich 2, which turned out to be Matt Taylor's penultimate game in charge. He is gone, and that is my reaction. Thank you, everybody, for watching.